What if I told you that you could get surprisingly good at any skill in just 7 days? Most people wouldn't believe it because we've been taught learning requires insane discipline, perfect routines, or superhuman willpower. And if we don't have that, we assume we're just bad at sticking to things. That's not true. In this video, I'm giving you a 7-day learning system that rewires how your brain approaches any skill, studying, languages, gym, coding, business, anything. Let's begin. Number one, the 10-minute rule. Here's what always happens when you try to learn something new. You sit down, you open the book, you see one word you can't pronounce. Your brain immediately goes, nope, this is hard. Let's binge Netflix instead. That reaction has nothing to do with your intelligence or your potential. It's biology. The first 10 minutes of learning anything are biologically the worst, not because you're untalented, but because your brain is built to conserve energy. Anything unfamiliar feels risky, so it triggers resistance. So it shuts down your motivation, hoping you'll return to something safe like scrolling TikTok. Scientists call this cognitive resistance, and it has nothing to do with ability. It's the same mechanism that makes starting a workout harder than doing the workout itself. So use this trick. Tell yourself you'll only work for 10 minutes. 10 minutes feels safe. Your brain doesn't fight it. Once you start, focus turns on, dopamine rises, and resistance fades. Before you know it, 10 minutes becomes 40. So the first skill to learn in these 7 days is simple. Learn how to start. Because once you win the first 10 minutes, everything else becomes much easier. Number two, the chunking method. Imagine trying to watch a movie where every scene is out of order. You see everything, but none of it makes sense. That's what your brain looks like before it learns how to organize information. That organization process is called chunking. It's how your brain takes a huge amount of data and compresses it into a few meaningful pieces. This is what experts do. Musicians don't think about every note, they play full phrases. People who speak multiple languages stop translating and start thinking in that language. Beginners do the opposite. They memorize random words, isolated formulas, disconnected steps, and then wonder why nothing sticks. So instead of memorizing 50 words, learn 5 real sentences. Instead of drilling 20 chords, learn 3 chord progressions. Instead of studying 10 coding functions, build one small program that uses them all. Your brain loves context. It loves patterns. It remembers meaning far better than raw data. So, if you want to learn faster, stop feeding your brain random pieces. Start turning information into patterns it can understand. Number 3, the rabbit hole technique. Picture this. You search, how do I learn Spanish? 3 hours later, you're watching videos about how the brain remembers words, how accents form, and how children learn to speak. You didn't plan it, but you fell into a rabbit hole. This works because curiosity is the fastest fuel for memory. When you're genuinely interested, your brain stops resisting and starts absorbing. It stops acting like a bored employee and starts paying attention to everything. The trick is simple. Don't just study the skill, study everything around the skill. If you're learning about fitness, study how muscles grow, how recovery works, and why some workouts fail. If you're learning about investment, learn how markets behave and what makes people buy or sell their shares. If you're learning to cook, learn how flavors actually work. Because when you expand context, your brain creates more neural hooks. Those hooks make the main skills easier to understand, easier to retain, and easier to perform without effort. On top of that, rabbit holes make learning fun. And when something is fun, you repeat it. And repetition is what builds skill. It's one of the closest things we have to a learning shortcut. So let yourself go down those rabbit holes. Just don't blame me if you suddenly know how ancient perfumes were made. Number 4, learn by teaching. Have you noticed that teachers almost always understand a subject better than the students? It's not because they're smarter. It's because explaining something forces the brain to organize information in a clear, usable way. This is known as the Feynman technique, named after a Nobel Prize-winning physicist who learned by pretending he had to explain everything to a 12-year-old. If it worked for someone who dealt with quantum physics, it will work for whatever you're trying to learn. Here's how it actually works. First, learn something small. One concept, one rule, one technique. Second, explain it out loud, not in your head. Out loud. You can talk to a friend, your pet, or even an empty room. Third, pay attention to the parts where you hesitate or feel confused. That's your brain showing you exactly what you don't understand yet. Fourth, go back, fix those gaps, and explain it again but simpler. Each time you do this, your understanding gets sharper. You're not just memorizing, you're teaching your brain how to use the information. This method is so effective that students who use it often outperform people who rely only on memorization, even if those people are naturally smart. Teaching exposes the weak spots your brain usually ignores. So try this. Every day, learn one small thing, then explain it out loud within an hour. You'll lock it into your memory far faster than just rereading notes. Number 5, the 70% rule. Here's something your perfectionist brain doesn't want to hear. You don't need to be great. You just need to be 70% good. Why 70%? Because research shows people learn faster when they aim for good enough instead of perfect. Perfection slows you down, it kills momentum. It turns learning into stress instead of progress. Think about how often people get stuck fixing tiny details, adjusting one small part over and over while barely moving forward. That's perfection working against you. But when you aim for 70%, a few important things happen. You take more attempts, you try more ideas, you stop freezing every time something isn't flawless, and most importantly, you actually finish. And finishing is what builds skill. That's why writers use rough drafts, athletes repeat imperfect reps, and language learners speak early instead of waiting until they sound perfect. When you stop chasing perfection, your brain relaxes, and a relaxed brain learns much faster. Here's the real secret. 70% done every day for a week will always beat 100% done once in a while. So don't wait to be perfect. Embrace the messy, awkward, slightly uncomfortable version of your new skill. That's the version that actually gets you somewhere. Number 6, identity-based learning. Imagine trying to learn a new skill while constantly telling yourself you're bad at it. I'm terrible at languages, I can't draw, I'm just not good at cooking. You've already lost before you even start. Humans don't learn skills. They become the kind of person who can do the skill. This is called identity-based learning, and it's the most powerful idea in this entire system. Your brain is wired to protect who you think you are, even if that identity is limiting. If you believe you're not a math person, your brain will quietly resist anything that challenges that belief. It's like hiring a bodyguard to protect the wrong story about you. So here's how the 7-day shift begins. On day 1, you choose the identity. I'm someone who learns languages. I'm someone who draws. I'm a beginner at cooking, not an expert, just someone who does the thing. Then you reinforce it with small actions. 5 minutes counts. Identity isn't built through dramatic effort. It's built through quiet, repeated proof. That's why people who start running, even badly, begin to see themselves as runners. Why beginners in the gym start feeling like athletes before they look like one. Why artists with messy sketches still feel like artists. The identity comes first. The ability follows. Once you change who you believe you are, what you do starts to change automatically. You procrastinate less because that's not who you are anymore. You fear difficulty less because your identity expects progress. You stop quitting because quitting doesn't fit the story you're now living. Identity makes consistency automatic, and consistency makes mastery inevitable. In 7 days, you won't just be learning a skill, you'll be becoming someone who can learn anything. That is it for today, guys. See you in the next one.